in Pakistan, the more things change, the more they appear to be the same.
You're watching The Gist on Strat News Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan. Good evening. Our focus is on Pakistan, and I have with me Ramanathan Kumar, former Special Secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat. Kumar, we meet again.
Indeed, we do, and thank you very much, Surya, for having me back on your show.
So it's back to Pakistan, your favorite, the place you covered and monitored for years. We don't seem to have a result, but we have a couple of guys who are already in the running for Prime Minister. How do you square that?
Well, I think a great deal of uncertainty has surrounded this election, Surya. To begin with, there were serious doubts whether these elections would be held in the first place or not. And if you recall, I was one of those who felt that sometime around the end of January or early February 2024, the election would be held, and that is what happened in the end. But of course, there has been a great deal of, there have been all kinds of allegations about this election, about rigging, and about parties being sort of almost being muscled out of the equation, and so on and so forth. So throughout, the run up and the election itself, the counting of votes, which were marked by many strange events, so to speak.
Hmm.
So the uncertainty has persisted, and you're right, we still don't have the complete result, but there is a broad result, as it were. And there are also the tally of the reserved seats and all has to be added, and I think that's what is and there are multiple challenges to several of the results. So I think that is what is really coming in the way of a final tally being announced, but I'm sure it will in the fullness of time. And basically, the National Assembly of Pakistan has to be summoned within 21 days of the election being held. And February 8th was the election. So I'm sure we will get there eventually before the 1st of March.
Mhm. So, what do you think is going on now behind the scenes? We keep hearing reports about a certain gentleman by the name of Omar Ayub being named Prime Minister by Imran Khan. Then we have PM candidates announced by Nawaz Sharif. Um, so, that's on the public level. What's going on behind? I'm
Well,
asking
I
you to
think
speculate here.
Imran Khan's announcement for the post of Prime Minister, I think, really doesn't count. And what is really going on behind the scenes, I think, was made amply clear by the statement released by the ISPR about what the army chief had to say about this election, 3 or 4 days ago. And the army chief said that, the country needs stable hands, mature politics, move away from the politics of polarization and anarchy, etc., etc. And that is, to my mind, was the critical sort of giveaway, and it clearly showed what powerful forces behind the scenes wanted. Stable hands essentially meant, and unity meant that they want the PMLN and the PPP to come together and form the kind of coalition that they had, before the elections were announced. And very broadly speaking, I think that is really what is going on. We are all aware that former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who, despite all the assistance that he got from the establishment or the deep state,
Yeah.
uh, you know, managed to somehow hold on to his seat in Lahore, but he lost in, I Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and he has since sort of withdrawn from the fray, so to speak, at least as far as the post of prime minister is concerned. And his party has named former prime minister and Nawaz Sharif's younger brother, Shehbaz Sharif, as their prime ministerial candidate. The PPP has said that they will support the PMLN in the government formation exercise and also for the post of prime minister. And as a quid pro quo, they have asked for the posts, some of the constitutional posts, which would possibly mean the speaker's post, the chairman senate's post, and possibly the post of president also, which will have to be filled up soon once the senate is constituted, etc., etc. So, or both houses are properly constituted, then the election for the new president will take place. So I would say that despite all the uncertainty which still persists, the broad picture is that the negotiations between the PMLN and the PPP, or in fact the coalition of there are a few other smaller parties as well, uh, the coalition of six parties, I think they are negotiating with the complete blessings of the military establishment in the background. And I think in the next few days, a new government comprising this coalition of the willing and possibly headed by Shahbaz Sharif will be formed.
Mhm. Would you say the army has been strengthened by the developments since February 8th, including a flawed election process, the rigging that went on? We've seen videos of that, and the manner in which PTI candidates have been targeted, and Imran himself was in jail. You think, despite all this, the army is able to hold its head high and say, we've saved Pakistan, we are credible, and all that stuff? Does it sell down the line?
Well, I think that really is the big issue, Surya. I mean, you've raised a very, very fundamental point, and it can be answered in many ways, it would be a somewhat complex answer. Looking at it from the point of view of the army, I mean, in a very short term tactical sense, one could say that they have perhaps got what they wanted, which was to marginalize Imran Khan. They made sure that the bat was taken away from him, so to speak. So, despite the fact that independent candidates, supporting him, managed to get 101 seats or emerge as the largest bloc, they are not a recognized party and therefore they cannot form the government. So Imran Khan has been kept at bay, which was definitely, it was quite apparent that was the immediate tactic of or objective of the army. So they have managed to have their way as far as that is concerned. And clearly, one can also then add to that somebody like Shahbaz Sharif has always been, I think it is an open secret, has been the military's preferred candidate because he is not likely to challenge them on any of the, on issues that the army considers important. You have a deferential sort of prime minister. In fact, the army has always preferred Shahbaz Sharif to Nawaz Sharif, who has often tended to become his own man. So if he becomes the prime minister, they would have got a prime minister and a government also of their choice. But then you talked of holding their head high. Certainly, I mean nobody can hold their head high in these circumstances. The evidence of rigging and manipulation is there for the entire world to see. Uncomfortable questions have been raised internationally, but the army is clearly brazening its way through. They know that there is nobody to challenge them, as has always been the case in Pakistan. But then looking further down the road, now it can be argued that, and it is well known that within the military establishment, the larger the extended military family among the retired servicemen, the family members of even serving personnel, the PTI has always had a considerable amount of support. So now that this vote has been quite patently and obviously subverted, uh, will the 30 odd percent of the electorate which has voted for Imran Khan, which predominantly consists of young voters, will they sort of sit back indefinitely and or will slowly will tensions rise, and will unrest slowly rear its head, uh, to the extent that it also affects, say, support for the army chief within the army over a
Mhm.
period of time. All that really remains to be seen. But it is possible that superficially and for some time at least, a weak civilian government may be formed, but it is quite possible that, and it may give Pakistan a veneer or a semblance of stability for some time. But it's quite possible that in the months that ensue, Pakistan may be headed for a period of of more turmoil and instability.
Mhm. Tell me, Kumar, I mean, how does the army get away with so much? 50 years ago, they lost half the country. They are fighting a battle in Balochistan for years. The Afghans have turned against them. And these guys continue to perpetuate, so much of inequality and injustice on their own people. Yet they stay firm. They, like rock. How do you explain
Well,
that?
I think many Pakistani commentators would agree that it is the political leaders who are themselves to blame for this sorry state of affairs. They have always, acquiesced in the interference by the army, uh, and it can well be argued, and it is fairly well known, that a person like Imran Khan for himself, though he's raved and ranted against the army in the past few months, particularly after sort of his differences with the former army chief came out into the open. His anti-establishmentism, so to speak, is just skin deep, and if the army were to once again support him, he would kiss and make up with them very quickly. It's a different matter that he's crossed so many red lines that the army is not likely to forgive him in a hurry. But given half a chance, he would willingly go back into the arms of the army. And that is what all the political parties have done. Even the case of the PMLN now, I mean, in 2018, for instance, after he was ousted, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif talked of vote ko izzat do. But clearly, at some level now, there has been a rapprochement between the PMLN and the army, which is what enabled him to come back to Pakistan. And thereafter, the establishment went out of his way to clear all the obstacles in his way to ensure that he contests this election. So
Yeah.
all parties have done this, all political leaders have done this, and they have ceded the space to the army to intervene in politics, and that is what I think has brought Pakistan to this rather sorry pass. And I think that is the analysis of many observers in Pakistan itself.
Mhm. Before I come to the next question, a little ad break and see you in a bit. Welcome back. Resuming our conversation with Ramanathan Kumar on the Pakistan poll result. Um, we were talking about the role of the army. Would you say that, I mean, you were mentioning that a lot of young people had voted for the PTI this time. Would you say the disaffection among them in the long run, I mean, this is very speculative, disaffection among them in the long run could work against the army or it would matter?
Well, going by the, if you look at the vote share, Surya, of the parties, it's interesting to see that, it has more or less remained constant in 2018 and 2024.
Mhm.
In 2018, the PTI won about 32, 33% of the vote, which is what they have done this time also, despite their election symbol being taken away, etc. The PMLN got about 22, 23% of the vote last time, and 5 years down the line, it still more or less remains the same. There's perhaps been a very marginal dip of half a percent or whatever, but it remains in that
Mhm.
22, 23% range. The PPP got about, I think, 13, 12, 13% of the vote, and that is where, again, they are this time, 13 to 14% or thereabouts. So,
Mhm.
broadly speaking, the vote percentage of these parties has not changed. Now, in that 33% that the PTI has got, yes, I think the broad sort of assessment is that a large chunk has come from the middle class, young voters, women, um, uh, people belonging, as I said, to ex-servicemen, the larger army fraternity, etc., armed forces fraternity. So, yes, I mean, it's very difficult to say. As you said, it is speculative, but if there is any hope of, democratic forces at some point of time asserting themselves in Pakistan, which is really what, from a Pakistani perspective, which is what the country needs.
Yeah.
It is the young voters who will have to, uh, fashion a new social contract, so to speak, in Pakistan. But as the Pakistani historian Yusuf Bangash wrote recently in one of his articles, that's easier said than done. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
unless there is a broad anti establishment political consensus, unless that develops in Pakistan, and it will, as you said, have to be spearheaded by the younger generation, nothing much is really fundamentally going to change in that country. And the army, the establishment, or more precisely, I would say the deep state, because if there is any country in the world where there is a deep state, it is Pakistan. The unaccounted, unelected forces
Yeah.
will continue to call the shots eventually.
Mhm. I mean, it's strange, isn't it, that the Bangladesh military, which is a clone of the Pakistani military, could step back, could see the tea leaves and step back, and this bunch is not able to give up. Probably
Yes,
it's.
I think fortunately better sense has prevailed in Bangladesh over a long period of time. And although one could say that 2007 was a bit of an aberration when the military, but there again, and even Bangladesh, Surya, I think actually it proves the point that we are discussing, that it is only when the civilian process breaks down completely
Yeah.
that these anti democratic forces get a chance to step in. This is what happened in Bangladesh also after 2000, in 2006, when the the four-party government, then four-party coalition government, completed its term. There was a complete impasse, and the two major political parties just couldn't agree on the composition of the caretaker government. And it is then that some of the international community, quote unquote, stepped in, and pressure was the Western countries primarily. because they felt that Bangladesh was, they had put in a lot of aid into Bangladesh, and the country was becoming ungovernable. So they stepped in, and pressure was mounted on the army, which very reluctantly then came in and cleaned up the
Yeah.
mess. And fortunately, you had somebody like General Moin U. Ahmad, who was, a fairly enlightened general, so to speak. And once the job had been done, the army very quickly sort of stepped back and allowed the
Yeah.
normal political process to come into play. But the larger point really is, it is only when there is a breakdown of the civilian democratic process, when they show that they are totally incapable of running the business that they should be running, that is what really gives the space for the army and such like to step in. And
Mm. In fact,
fortunately,
we do.
Bangladesh appears to have turned the corner in that respect,
Yeah.
whereas Pakistan still seems to be far from doing so.
And this has been the case with them since the very beginning. Last word, sir.
Well,
Last
I
word, sir.
think the
Yeah.
last word is, I think, in Pakistan, the more things change, the more they appear to be the same.
Yeah.
And uh, fundamentally, nothing has really changed in Pakistan, despite the excitement and the fizz
Mm.
generated by this election. Yes, in some ways, the limits of electoral engineering have been shown up. You
Mm.
cannot entirely dismiss a popular politician, or the most popular politician in the country, so to speak. You can't, short of
Yeah.
physically liquidating him or her, you can't completely take him or her out of the equation. Uh, so, yes, I mean, you can't completely wish away the politicians, but unless the politicians get their act together, in a country like Pakistan, the army will continue to maintain its stranglehold over the political process.
And that's the awful reality. Ramanathan Kumar, thanks very much for that perspective. And let's see what pans out in the next couple of days. We expect some um, some clarity on the political direction ahead. Thanks very much, Kumar, and glad to have you.
Thank you, Surya.
That's all we have on this edition of The Gist. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. Thank you very much. Good night.